Everybody knew that I had 200 employees. It wasn't no secret. So what you think? I was paying them in hamburgers? Well, somebody was paying that payroll. I was doing that. So if
you've ever wondered what a gangster might look like decked out in flashy parachute pants, all you had to do was catch an MC Hammer music video. Hammer had this rare ability to light up a kid's birthday party and yet still carry the weight of someone who could tell you, "Stay out of LA," and mean it with all his heart. Beneath those electrifying moves and iconic tracks, there was a grittier side to Hammer that few ever glimpsed. Born Stanley Kirk Burrell in 1962, he came from the tough streets of Oakland, California. Life wasn't easy. He shared a small apartment in East Oakland with 8 siblings. Yes, 8. At just 5 years old, his father walked out, leaving his mother to raise them all. Even though his father was largely absent, Hammer's mom kept him grounded, steering him away from the dangerous streets that surrounded them. Those streets were harsh, a place where staying out of trouble took real effort. Instead of getting caught up in the neighborhood's drug trade, young Hammer found his own hustle. He spent his time at Oakland A's games, peddling stray baseballs and showing off his dance moves next to a beatboxer. Even then, his energy was magnetic, pulling in small crowds with his splits and head spins. One day, fate stepped in when Hammer caught the attention of Oakland A's owner, Charlie Finley. From that moment on, Hammer's life took a surprising turn. Hired as the team's bat boy, he quickly became a trusted insider, forging friendships with the A's players of the 70s and serving as the eyes and ears of Finley himself. It was here, among the crack of bats and the cheers of fans, that Hammer's remarkable journey began. It was during his time as the A's bat boy that one of the players dubbed him Lil Hammer, thanks to his striking resemblance to the legendary Hank Aaron, famously nicknamed the Hammer. With that kind of legendary comparison attached to him, it made perfect sense that young Hammer would try his hand at baseball. Unfortunately, life had other plans. Despite his best efforts, his future on the field didn't pan out. After leaving school, Hammer faced a tough crossroads. The streets loomed as one of the only viable career paths, but he couldn't bring himself to disappoint his mom. Determined to find another way, he took a surprising turn and joined the Navy. Over 3 years of service, Hammer gained discipline and, perhaps more importantly, a deepened religious faith. When he returned, inspired by his spiritual devotion, he decided to channel that energy into a Christian rap group called the Holy Ghost Boy. The Holy Ghost Boy project, however, didn't gain traction. Undeterred, Hammer turned back to his Oakland A's connections to bankroll his next venture, a record label of his own, which he aptly named Busted Records. From that point on, it was pure grind mode. Hammer started selling his debut album, Feel My Power, straight from the trunk of his car and out of his basement. He performed anywhere that would have him, building an audience with sheer persistence. Against all odds, he moved 60,000 copies independently, a massive feat for someone doing it all on their own. Though singing and producing weren't his strong suits, Hammer had one undeniable weapon in his arsenal: his incredible dancing. By the late 80s, Hammer wasn't just performing solo, he had built an entire crew of dancers who followed a strict regimen. This wasn't your typical rehearsal setup. Hammer ran things like a boot camp, requiring 8-hour practice sessions and enforcing a hard curfew. His relentless work ethic paid off. In 1988, after years of hustling, Hammer's big break arrived. He signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Capitol Records, cementing his rise from local act to a national sensation. Suddenly, Hammer was living the good life. His first 2 albums with Capitol, packed with hits like Pray, Too Legit to Quit, and the cultural phenomenon You Can't Touch This, catapulted him to the forefront of mainstream rap. At a time when hip-hop was just starting to break into the broader public consciousness, Hammer had already claimed the spotlight, drawing admiration from fans and some skepticism from purists. Not everyone in the rap world was thrilled with Hammer's meteoric rise. Some critics felt he didn't embody the essence of an authentic rapper. But that didn't stop Hammer from dominating the charts and making history, proving that he was a force to be reckoned with, on the stage and beyond. It's easy to look back and appreciate what MC Hammer brought to the table, but in the heat of his rise, even Hammer himself struggled with the notion of being considered a real G. This wasn't just a fleeting insecurity, it turned out to be a recurring theme at the heart of many of his public spats. While suburban kids and soccer moms adored his clean-cut image, other artists in the rap game saw him differently. They'd watch Hammer busting out his elaborate dance moves in those infamous balloon pants and wonder, how on earth did this guy blow up? But Hammer owned his uniqueness. He was proud of his dancing, so proud in fact that he took out a $10 million insurance policy on his legs, as if to say, my moves are money. Yet despite his pride, even his own record label tried to steer him toward a grittier persona. They encouraged him to play up a tougher gangster image. Hammer wouldn't bite. He wasn't about to be anyone but himself, and he wasn't interested in crafting a fictional persona just to sell records. That authenticity set him apart, even if it invited criticism. Because of his squeaky clean image, many other rappers saw Hammer as an easy target. They figured they could take pot shots at him without fear of retaliation. Granted, Hammer wasn't completely innocent. He stirred up a few rivalries of his own, including a notable one with Run DMC. Still, most of the hip-hop community felt comfortable firing shots his way. Even heavyweights like Tupac threw a few jabs in his direction. But there was one diss that Hammer absolutely wasn't going to let slide. When Redman mocked Hammer's mother on a skit from his debut album, it crossed a line. To fully grasp Hammer's perspective, consider everything we've covered. He was a man of faith, a self-made millionaire, a Navy veteran, and a rapper who grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Oakland. The one constant that kept him grounded was his mother. She was the reason he stayed out of trouble, the reason he didn't fall into the drug trade, and the reason he worked so hard to succeed. Mocking her wasn't just a casual insult, it was a direct attack on the very foundation of who MC Hammer was. When it came to family, Hammer didn't play around. Sure, you could poke fun at his wild fashion choices or his over-the-top dance moves, but disrespect his mother, and you'd quickly learn how serious he could get. This wasn't a man who dealt with issues through diss tracks or clever comebacks. If there was a problem, Hammer brought it straight to your doorstep. That's exactly what happened with Redman. Redman himself later admitted he had to apologize. Why? Because Hammer was rolling deep, making it clear he wouldn't tolerate the insult. Redman got off relatively easy. A stern talking to and the looming presence of Hammer's crew were enough to smooth things over. But not everyone got away so lightly. Just ask the rap group Third Bass. For MC Search and his Third Bass crew, their playful jab at Hammer on the song The Cactus turned into a full-blown nightmare. The track included a line that twisted words from one of Hammer's own songs, but Hammer didn't find it amusing. In fact, he took it as a blatant attack on his family, and for Hammer, that was a line you simply didn't cross. Third Bass had a tour date in Los Angeles, and word traveled fast. Before long, Def Jam's president got a call from Hammer's brother, Louis Burrell. The question was simple: are they still coming to California? The answer was yes, and Burrell's chilling reply made it clear there'd be trouble. Good, they are dead. That one call set off a chain reaction of fear and caution. Understandably rattled, the group reached out to people who might have a handle on the situation. A call to Eric B. confirmed the rumors. There was a $50,000 bounty on their heads. This wasn't just rap bravado. This was a very real threat. Even with that knowledge, Search wasn't fully convinced that they were in actual danger. But just to be safe, the crew hired Barefoot Pookie, a respected OG Crip, to be their security detail. Pookie was well connected, and his name alone carried enough weight to keep most troublemakers at bay. Still, Search's confidence led him to wander a bit too freely. One day, as he and his wife were out shopping at Louis Vuitton in Beverly Hills, the streets started to close in. Guys began showing up, circling, creating a tense atmosphere. Thankfully, Pookie's reputation saved the day. With a few well-placed gang signs, he defused the situation before it could escalate. What started as a seemingly harmless diss escalated into a dangerous encounter. For Hammer, protecting his family's honor wasn't just a matter of pride, it was a way of life. And for those who underestimated him, the consequences were a stark reminder that Hammer was more than just parachute pants and catchy hooks. The very next day, after the AMAs where Hammer snagged 2 awards, MC Search made a wise decision. He got out of town as fast as he could. But before he could fully put the drama behind him, Third Bass made an appearance on the K-Day video show. That's when Hammer, clearly fed up, called in live to confront them. Hammer gave Search a chance, right there, live on air, to own up, apologize, and end things peacefully. But Search wasn't ready to back down. Instead of making amends, he kept up the tough talk, claiming Hammer just didn't understand. The tension only escalated. After Hammer hung up, the trash talking continued, and soon after, an anonymous call came through. "You're all dead." The message was crystal clear. They had overstayed their welcome. Suddenly, the gravity of the situation hit home. Security teams scrambled to protect them, and Third Bass found themselves under constant guard. Bulletproof vests became their uniform for the rest of their time in California, and they never traveled without gang-connected protection. This wasn't just rap beef anymore, it was life and death. For Search, the experience left a deep mark. Years later, he would reveal that he spent more than 2 decades in therapy, still haunted by how close things had come to the edge. By now, Hammer's reputation as a man not to be trifled with was well established. Even fellow Oakland rapper $2 Hort remarked on the situation, saying the only unbelievable part of Search's story was the notion that Hammer needed to put up $50,000 for a hit. In $2 Hort's view, Hammer's connections ran so deep that if he wanted someone handled, there were people who would do it just out of loyalty. Hammer's crew was no ordinary entourage. Comedians like Godfrey and hip-hop veterans like Lord Jamar confirmed that Hammer rolled with serious numbers, over 100 strong, in the Bay Area. Wherever he went, he carried the kind of respect that made others think twice before crossing him. This wasn't the Hammer that the mainstream fans saw on stage in parachute pants. This was the Hammer who earned his respect in the streets long before he became a household name. McHammer's reputation wasn't just for show. He carried serious weight in the streets, and even hardened gang members knew better than to test him. One notable encounter involved a member of the Crips who thought he could push Hammer around. The gang member approached Hammer, demanding to be hired as part of his protection crew. Hammer stood firm, pointing out that he already had a dozen bodyguards on his payroll. When the Crip continued to press, even going so far as to make threats, Hammer calmly delivered a warning. One phone call was all it would take to resolve things. That wasn't just tough talk. By the next morning, the situation had turned entirely. The same gang member who had threatened him was now apologizing, admitting he had no idea how far Hammer's connections really went. It was a clear sign that Hammer's influence extended well beyond the stage and studio. His respect in the streets was genuine. One of Hammer's most infamous beefs was with Ice Cube. Cube took a public shot at Hammer on the track True to the Game. The music video for the song went even further, depicting a character that looked suspiciously like Hammer being tied up, duct-taped, and tossed into a car trunk. It was a blatant jab, and Hammer wasn't about to let it slide. When Hammer saw the video, he didn't just shrug it off. Instead, he gathered his crew, hopped in the car, and headed straight for Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on Vine Street. The word was that Ice Cube frequented the spot, and Hammer was ready to have a face-to-face conversation. According to one of Hammer's tour crew members, Cube quickly backed down when confronted. Whatever Hammer said made it clear that this kind of disrespect wasn't going to happen again. Cube got the message. As if his street reputation wasn't already solid, Hammer's decision to sign with Death Row Records only amplified his image. Working alongside Suge Knight, one of the most feared figures in the music industry at the time, cemented Hammer's status as someone not to be underestimated. This wasn't just about music anymore. Hammer's ties to the streets, his ability to command respect, and his unflinching response to challenges made one thing clear. MC Hammer was not to be messed with. These are just some of the stories we know. The truth is, there are probably countless others that have never come to light. But one thing is certain. By the end of the 90s, everyone in the rap game understood that crossing Hammer was a mistake they didn't want to make.